After years of wishing and speculating, the time has finally come. Thanks once again to the good people at Hot Toys for creating yet another version of the 1/6 scale Back to the Future DeLorean. Join me, Future Boy, as I complete this trilogy of collectibles by unboxing the Time Machine Mark III. It is currently January 2025, and if you're familiar with the previous two DeLoreans, you'll notice the packaging is very similar to the Mark II time machine that was released in 2023. If you're not familiar, you may want to check out the previous video I made on the Part 1 and 2 DeLoreans. And when you're done watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Thanks. So far, the build of the DeLorean itself unsurprisingly looks identical to the Mark II version. Of course, there is some assembly required. Thankfully, there are no pesky decals to place, but we do need to install these fragile flux bands, as well as the Mr. Fusion reactor, which opens so you can load it with garbage, fuel. Anyone have a lead on a 1/6 scale banana peel? The hardest thing may actually be placing this tiny alarm clock on the dashboard. There is little room to work around the dash and the components, so fat fingers beware. This being the Part 3 DeLorean, it of course comes with all the upgrades, or should I say downgrades, that Doc had to install to make the time machine work in the past. The first of which being some extra cables for the new time circuits. These are gathered up on the dashboard and can be best seen in the drive-in sequence. Also included is the boiler temperature gauge that shows when each Presto log will blow inside the locomotive during the movie's finale. A more subtle detail is the addition of the tow bar that sits low on the DeLorean bumper. Both of these accessories are easily attached via built-in magnets. And as expected, the biggest addition to this version of the car is the hood box. This box contains all the extra 1955 components needed to make the time circuits work after being wiped out by lightning. The detail and accuracy in this box is insane. There are so many gizmos and wires, you have to be very careful not to damage during installation. Unfortunately, none of these light up, but you don't really see them do that too well in the film, so no big loss. Also, they have omitted a very subtle detail, the Pepsi Cola branding on the box itself, as we can assume that 1955 Doc used a wooden Pepsi crate to house these components. Again, not very noticeable in the film, but for us detail-oriented fans, that would have been fun to see. Side note, the hood itself can be a little finicky closing all the way with these additional straps, but other than that, amazing attention to detail. For sure, the centerpiece of this DeLorean. As with previous 1/6 DeLoreans, the batteries are hidden beneath the faux spare tire under the hood. And if you don't want to waste batteries, there is also an option to run the car via USB port. There are two lighting modes. Setting 1 activates the headlights, taillights, and all interior displays, including dashboard, time circuits, and the flux capacitor. Setting 2 will do all of that and will additionally light up the reactor cooling vents. Since this DeLorean represents Back to the Future Part 3, that means we technically get two different versions of the car. Let's call them Mark IIIA and Mark IIIB. Version 3A comes as we see it at the beginning of the film, with 1955 white wall tires. The front pair swivels so you can turn the car as you would in real life. For better or for worse, they have added some road wear and dirt spatter on the wheels as well. They come with faux chrome hubcaps that are easily removable with this magnetic tool they included. Some fans have complained about the size of the wheel covers compared to the ratio they are in the film. I'm sure most people would never notice at a glance, but for us sticklers, they are unfortunately not to scale. A persistent problem in the Back to the Future universe.
I apologize for the crudity of this model, but
No, Doc, it's not to scale.
But there is an upside detail that was included, the option to raise the suspension of the car. Since this version needs to be off-road ready to drive over sagebrush and rocks, you don't want the chassis scraping the ground. You can manually push the wheels away from the body until they lock into place. A small push button on the frame allows them to snap back into their standard position. And that's exactly where they should be for the Mark IIIB version. By magnetically removing the hubcaps and unscrewing the tires, You are now ready to add the railroad wheels. Screw these babies on and cover them with this magnetic nut to make it look more accurate. And voila, this sucker is ready to ride the rails, just as it did in the finale of the film. The only bummer is this unit did not come with any train tracks to display the car on, even though we paid a hefty price and they actually show the vehicle on train tracks in the promotional materials. I guess Hot Toys didn't think they needed to include these accessories for some reason. I'm hoping some fans out there are going to be proactive and maybe 3D print some that we can buy on eBay. Or perhaps there are some model train enthusiasts out there that have a lead on some pre-made 1/6 tracks. If so, please let us know in the comments. I would love to display this baby on rails. In the meantime, for those indecisive collectors, you could always leave a pair of each wheel on either side. Yes, it will leave the car a bit lopsided, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of collectors who will say, "Hey, Future Boy, you're going to damage the struts and the rotors and the axles and the..." Hey man, I'm just trying to have a good time here. And speaking of fun, now that the car is all set up, we can integrate our 1/6 scale Marty and Doc figures to reenact some fun moments from the movie and beyond. If you're like me, you are very glad to see Part 3 being represented with such a cool, detailed collectible. I feel like the final chapter often gets neglected when it comes to collectibles and toys, so I'm very glad it got the attention it deserves here. So, now that all 3 versions are out, which one is your favorite? How many of you out there are like me and just had to have all 3, or should I say all 4 different models? Anything I didn't cover that you think Hot Toys missed, or anything you especially love about these collectibles, please share your thoughts with all of us. And don't forget to subscribe. There may be some more 1/6 scale fun to be had on this channel yet. Maybe a comparison video of all 3 time machines is in order? In the meantime, keep collecting, have fun, and I'll talk to you in the future.